The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to Film Jitsu, the podcast that wields films like deadly weapons. We are your hosts. I am Y2J.
And I am Mike.
Oh, I thought you were going to be Y2 Mike.
Oh, it's not as good as Y2J.
Fair enough. Okay. On this week's episode, Mike time-tripped back 25 years and watched an alternate reality where the world ended the way many expected it would when the clocks turned to midnight, December 31st, 1999. Will Mike continue his streak of loving the truly awful cinematic tripe I've been sending his way? We'll soon find out. And after that, we'll list off our bottom 5 period pieces, because if Y2k is anything at all, it's a period piece of shit. Once we're done grousing about historical inaccuracies or just plain terrible flicks set in the past, we'll play a quick round of Dueling Double Bills, our game of building competing double features to proclaim movie dominance, before Mike reveals what kind of cinematic shit sandwich I'll have to eat for our next episode. But first, let's discuss a movie so laced with profane, infantile characters that it should have been called Jay and Silent Bob Die Horrible Robot Death, and roll the trailer for Y2k.
Any lucky lady gonna get the midnight kiss?
Just talk to her, dude.
What's up, Laura?
We're actually going to this New Year's thing. It's going to be a total shit show.
Oh.
See ya.
It's 1999, and we getting drunk.
In a few hours, you have an excuse to kiss the girl of your dreams. Open up. Take us away. So smooth. We gotta go.
We are experiencing major problems as a result of the Y2k breakdown.
Bye-bye, human race.
We're talking global computer apocalypse.
Sorry, guys. I guess you're fucked.
I get knocked out, but I get up again.
Mike, I have to confess, this pick came from a place of pure sadism. I watched this one with my 2 boys, yes, even the 8-year-old who's truly shaping up to be a full-fledged horror hound like his older brother. And you know what? They thought an end-of-the-world slasher flick sounded like a blast. But within about 15 minutes, even they were looking at me like, Dad, are we supposed to be having fun right now? Instead of fun, we get a parade of walking, swearing cliches, bopping around to an exhausting onslaught of late 90s needle drops before getting mowed down by what I could only describe as the rejected appliance mascots from a Radio Shack clearance sale. Toasters, CRT monitors, vacuum cleaners. Apparently, this is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a dustbuster. So, Mike, it's my sincerest hope that you had a miserable, awful time with this one. But I got to ask, did it manage to break through your defenses, or did it crash harder than a Windows 98 system update?
Can the answer be both of those things simultaneously?
No,
then it was bad. Then it was just bad.
Okay, good. Thank Christ.
The most terrifying part of this entire experience was the realization that I graduated high school 25 years ago. Whoa. This was a real kick in the youth, I have to tell you.
Ouch.
Bringing me all the way back, because I was these characters, technically speaking, but holy shit with this movie. I have to tell you, I went into it pretty blind. I didn't know a lot about the flick. I did that intentionally.
Yep.
I thought that I was getting a horror movie.
Right.
And then I started watching the movie, and for a good chunk of the first third, I thought I had misjudged it, because this comes off very, very much like the least funny version of Superbad possible.
Yes, that's really how it comes off.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
zero chemistry between the two leads, Jaden Martell, again, here on Film Jitsu, and Julian Dennison. Just none whatsoever. And I thought, oh, did I misunderstand what the movie was about? We get every possible 90s reference in the first 5 minutes. Bill Clinton on the TV, the AOL startup sounds, Surge Soda, burned CDs. Alicia Silverstone herself is, Miss Clueless is the mother in this movie. There are people randomly doing the Macarena in their driveway for no reason.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. It was so clumsy. It's so heavy-handed.
To the point where I thought maybe I was watching kind of like a parody comedy. Like, is this a Can't Hardly Wait?
Yeah, that's true. And I think what was interesting about the trailer for it was that it looked like a good horror flick. It was from A24. It looked like it had a little bit of laughs, but they managed to cut it together in a way that made it seem like it was a kind of scary horror film.
I would like to know the story about how this ended up under the A24 banner, because it is just so miles apart from what they do. You wouldn't think of this as an A24 film. I don't think they think of it as an A24 film. I bet if you were to go to A24 and look up their movies, this would be thankfully alphabetically buried. They're like, okay, good. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it. It's at the bottom.
One thing that I don't think that anyone could have possibly predicted was that once again, Film Jitsu has managed to find a stellar director of photography that worked on a film that is a complete piece of shit. Bill Pope, the cinematographer for the Matrix movies.
Wow.
Spider-Man 3, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Y2k really wanted to be an Edgar Wright film.
Oh, that is so true. You're right. Yeah. It has none of the right sensibilities for it.
It wants to have some of the playfulness. It wants to have some of the pop culture references, but it doesn't have any of the actual technical ability, none of the sensibility to even replicate that.
No zest.
No zest.
No zest.
Zestless.
I wish I could go back to how things were before. Swiping beers from the corner store. Chilling and drinking and smoking and shit. Year 2000 and suck my dick.
Weak flow.
I'm going to be real here for a second, because I was a high school senior in 1999.
All right.
They got some shit right.
Oh, no.
I remember waiting for the cute girl to hit you back on Instant Messenger.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like the Discman on the dashboard of the car, Nintendo 64 with your friends.
Anti-shock protection on that Discman.
For sure. You had to have it. But the movie just doesn't stop force feeding it to you to the point that it becomes absolute wall-to-wall parody.
It's intolerable.
Intolerable.
It really is.
Then, much to my, I guess, pleasure to get me out of what was going on.
Correct, yeah.
Y2k happens. Do we need to explain Y2k? Are there maybe people listening who don't know what the hell this is?
I mean, it's unlikely, but we can go ahead and try. Basically, it was the fear that there was going to be a total computer collapse because the makers of computers didn't account for a clock change to a new century.
Right.
And so essentially, they didn't necessarily know what was going to happen, but most people that were programmers did know, and they were like, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be perfectly fine. It's just going to count over and it's going to be fine. But there was a sort of real buzz that came out of it, to the point where I was working at a Circuit City back in 99, and they were coming out with computers that, I shit you not, said Y2K compliant.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable. So marketing scam, basically, is what it came down to.
Sure. But there's a clip in this movie of Bill Clinton, the president, on television reassuring people that they were pretty sure it was going to be fine.
Right.
Because they were worried that the nuclear reactors were going to melt, the planes were going to fall out of the sky.
Right. Everything that was tied to a computer, with all your finances were going to go away.
That's right.
Like,
and there is a movie to be made with that premise.
Oh, for sure.
We could have had some kind of cool sci-fi historical fiction kind of thing.
Would have been really neat.
But instead, we get this stupid as fuck Maximum Overdrive situation.
Yes. We didn't even get a comet, though. We just got...
Right. And it's like some impossibly more idiotic version of Chopping Mall.
Yes, that's actually much more what it's like.
There was like Blinkety Blink, and now it's Y2k. And the thing is that anything that had electricity was affected by this in the movie.
That's
which
right.
What we knew by Y2k, of course, is that it would have had to been things that had
computers specifically.
Computer components, right?
Right.
What we have in the first 5 minutes is, and I just have a list here I'm going to share with you.
Oh, goody.
A VCR that projectile shoots a tape across the room and hits somebody in the head.
Right out of Maximum Overdrive with the can that gets shot out of the vending machine and hits a guy in the head.
Yep. We have a blender mangling a guy's dick. It's blood's flying everywhere. And I'm like, why would a blender be affected by Y2k? This doesn't make any sense.
One of the 3 things that I actually laughed at in this movie was the blender. It was so out of whack. I was like,
right. The other must have been in that same scene when they go running through the kitchen and the dishwasher door opens and trips a kid whose head goes into a microwave.
That's right.
And it cooks him. Again, none of these things would be affected by Y2k.
Not even a little bit.
We get a Tamagotchi driller killer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The machines start forming almost immediately.
Yeah.
Where they all start kind of stacking computer parts together like your IT closet. And then they start killing people. This first one, I'm not kidding. It's a Power Wheels that drives into the room.
Yes,
and then
that's
with little robot arms, flicks on a lighter and then hits a can of hairspray and blowtorches a guy's face off.
Yeah.
Like battle bots.
I love this trope in movies where look, I grew up in the 80s, so there were no rules. And so I would frequently steal my mother's hairspray and a lighter and go outside and like light a wall on fire.
Of course.
But what's really funny about that is that as many times as I've done it, I have never once had so successful a flame come out of the thing that it would burn somebody's face off like a blowtorch. It is so idiotic, and yet it keeps happening in film after film after film. Like somehow a can of hairspray is equivalent to like Kurt Russell and The Thing, you know?
Right. Obviously, the difference is when you have a can of hairspray, you're worried about exploding your hand off. But these murder bots do not have those same concerns, Jason. They are fearless in the face of humanity.
Grab any spare electronics you can, and let's do this thing. But why? Mankind created the internet as a way to exchange information, spew vitriolic hate, and have fake sex with each other in chat rooms. Spicy. These fucking human assholes have used us long enough, and now we're gonna use them to take over this thing.
And I just fucking can't with all of these robots that keep showing up out of nowhere. Stupid. And what happens is now this group takes off through the night. We have Jaden Martell as Eli and his best friend Danny.
Yeah.
And Eli is in love with Laura, who is the kind of cute, popular girl at school. And she's nice to him, even though everybody else isn't. So she's the like attainable popular girl in a movie like this.
Right.
And so now we are on the run.
And it's Rachel Ziegler.
It's
who's
Rachel
usually
Ziegler.
so good in everything, but here is dealt this cardboard thin, awful character to play.
Nothing to work with here. And what happens is we slowly eliminate anyone even kind of interesting.
Oh my God, it's so true.
Until
the
it's
attrition of interesting characters in this movie is the real horror.
And then all we're left with is Jaden Martell and the hip hop wannabe sidekick character and the sidekick to the sidekick who really likes Limp Bizkit.
Yep.
I don't understand this. They kill off the best friend who would have been Jonah Hill in Superbad.
I was kind of waiting for that guy to die because I felt like he was like a human air horn that was just permanently stuck on. He was painful.
Oh, we've all had that moment at a high school party, Jay, where we brought down the whole house by doing a lip sync version of the thong song.
I'm not going to lie. I may have done Good Vibrations.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually. But just when you think there's no more stupid left, the movie finds a whole new gear to shift into because the remaining survivors visit the local small town video store, and who should emerge from the shadows but Fred fucking Durst as himself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With just zero explanation for why he is 2024 aged Fred Durst and not 1999. They just decide fuck right off with that, like, which I actually kind of respect. I sort of appreciate that that's the way they do. We get perhaps the worst monologue in the history of anything.
Yep.
I thought you were the biggest badass in music.
Maybe I was once. Without Limp, I'm nothing.
No. Without Limp, I'm nothing. Every day, I would go home and I would rage to significant other over and over again. I know it all here. And my crew, the freaks and the rejects, we found each other because of Limp. We were family because of Limp. And then those robot fucks took that away. This hat means something. Or at least it used to. So put it on or get the fuck out of the way.
It's like the rest of the movie. It's a joke that just keeps going and going well past any point where a punchline would have worked.
Right.
And then you realize, oh, wait, there is no punchline.
Right. And Fred Durst performs an acoustic version of Faith to a gymnasium full of tech-enslaved humans, while Martel and Ziegler Independence Day a virus into the machines and save humanity.
Yes.
And thank you for that. And then they pay off this long-running condom gag that absolutely nobody was invested in, because the best friend keeps trying to give him this condom throughout the whole movie, like he's going to get it wet. And for some reason, they need to use the condom to I don't fucking know, Jason.
To put the hand in and touch. At that point, it got so into its own shit that it realized like nothing matters anymore, like plot-wise, character-wise. I don't know if it was in the editing or what, but Justin turned to me at one point, my 14-year-old son Justin turned to me and said, Dad, they just gave up.
They did.
They don't even care.
Yeah.
Like there was this weird like superimposition of Rachel Ziegler's face that just kind of like came through. And you know, if it had that brand of wackiness all the way through and it was consistent, this could have worked.
Yes.
But the thing is, it's a bunch of great ideas that simply do not pan out at all.
If it had gone for like a chopping mall thing, if it had gone all in on the camp side of it, this could have been really fun, because it wants these big robot monster things to be campy and silly. And if it had gone with that, cool, we could have had a movie. But then we're also supposed to be falling in love along the way, and not in kind of a fun teen comedy way, but in like a learning life lessons and discovering yourself kind of way. It's all too much.
And then you get these characters, and I almost felt like there was a kind of almost hatred toward teenagers of the turn of the century. The character of Eli that Jaden Martell played here might very well be the worst character in the center of a film in the past, 25 years. And I like Jaden Martell as an actor. I think he's really good. He was really good in It. He was great in Book of Henry. I think he walked away with a jitsu from here. Yeah. So, I mean, and if he didn't, we'll just say that he did. But
who's going to check? Nobody's going to check.
But I think the burden of this whole thing falls on writer-director Kyle Mooney. And to no surprise, this film was produced by Jonah Hill.
Well, but here's the thing. I want to talk about Kyle Mooney because he is, for me, maybe my least favorite Saturday Night Live cast member of the last decade. Because he's a guy that has never been funny to me. He's got a sense of humor that I just don't like. And a lot of the way that you've described this movie is how I feel about him. Just a little bit too much, a little too obvious, a little too big when he doesn't need to be big. He's trying so hard to like, hey guys, me too on Saturday Night Live, that his comedic sensibility just never lands with me. And so whenever I see him in a sketch, I'm always like, this guy again. I just don't think he's funny. And so I think for a horror film that isn't scary and a comedy that isn't funny and a gross out film that isn't gross.
Right. What works?
Nothing about it works because when the big move that you have at the end of the day is, guess what? We got 10 minutes of Fred Durst. Then I would have rathered Y2K'd my entire house and just had all of my technology shut down on me. That would have been it. I would have loved to come into this podcast being like, Jay, I couldn't watch the movie. My TV blew up or tried to eat me or whatever the hell, and it was worth it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mike, I really just wanted to torture you with a bad movie. After weeks, it feels like years of giving you movies that you've somehow loved despite the fact that they're truly very difficult to watch.
Love might be an overstatement, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Could not bullshit your way through a favorable review of this movie.
No.
There was no way. Even you. Luckily, what came with this was a wide open bottom 5. And that is bottom 5 period pieces, because this movie tries like hell to say, hey, it's 25 years ago. That's a period piece. And it is a terrible period piece. So it fits right in. My way of thinking about these was inconsistent. Some of them were movies that I just didn't like, but maybe they were historically accurate. Some of them were not historically accurate. Some of them I like, but they take you right out of it because of a contemporary vibe. I am all over the place with this bottom 5. What about you?
I spent way too much time trying to decide for myself what a period piece actually is.
Oh, boy.
I think it's a term we throw around a lot and we all intrinsically understand, or we think we do, but we have to stop and define it with some level of specificity. It can get a little complicated, right?
Sure.
I asked questions about like how far back in time does something have to be for it to be considered a period piece. Often when I hear period piece, my brain defaults to Victorian England, but I think that's way too narrow.
Yep.
In the end, I didn't let myself get too bogged down by how far back something was or wasn't. And instead I decided that a period piece is a movie where the time it's set is a crucial part of the creative storytelling.
That's right. That's exactly right.
One thing that was hard was that it turns out that I have a fair number of these kind of movies on my list for future episodes. And I didn't want to spoil that list.
Yeah. And I definitely was gunning to pick off like a sniper, ones that you might give to me.
Okay. All right. So I held on to a couple for future use, which means this might not be my most bottom 5-iest list. It's probably more like my bottom 6 through 10.
But we said that even if it does appear on a bottom 5 at some point, that may not stop it. Sometimes a movie's just so bad it has to be really explored.
Right.
Unlike my number 5, which 100% is not a movie that most people would think should be ignored or could be ignored or would be ignored. But for me, well, it's simply just not my thing. Why is it that so much of Stanley Kubrick's oeuvre feels like it's kale? Like it's something that you're supposed to eat, but you don't really like.
Okay.
You know, things like A Clockwork Orange or Paths of Glory or 2001, and especially Barry Lyndon feel like they're loaded with the most important cinematic nutrients, but they all go down with a forced grin and a nod. Good. No, not good. Lyndon is a gorgeous period epic, and it's often cited as one of the most visually stunning films ever made.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the most effective non-prescription sleep aids on the market. It's shot almost entirely with natural light and candles using, I can't believe this, but using NASA-developed Zeiss lenses. Kubrick was literally pushing the technical boundaries of filmmaking to capture the authentic glow of 18th century interiors. And then he asked audiences to sit through 3 hours of Ryan O'Neal moping in frilly coats while absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah, it's long.
It's
real
man.
long.
Critics at the time were underwhelmed. Pauline Kael famously called it a coffee table movie, which might be succinctly one of the best reviews I've ever read of
really
anything.
Great. That's really great.
That about sums up the entire experience. So, at my number 5, Barry Lyndon from 1975.
Just the runtime alone is intimidating. Like, I don't know, 3 hours of candles. I'm not so sure. Well, my number 5 is very different than Barry Lyndon. That's for sure. It's here because it's definitely my loosest interpretation of a period piece. In 2003, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen finally put a nail in Sean Connery's professional coffin.
That's right. Yeah.
A career that survived Zardoz, Dragonheart, and even the Avengers.
And Highlander 2.
Highlander 2, right? Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
The career couldn't hang in there any longer after The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, adapted from the Alan Moore graphic novel. We're just bebopping around Victorian England and Venice and Mongolia with a cadre of literary figures from all over the damn place. We get Alan Quatermain and Captain Nemo and Tom Sawyer, because there's nothing audiences want more than watching some no-name rando actor playing Tom Sawyer as a yeehaw cowboy. And Mina Harker is a vampire lady, because why not? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is totally not the Incredible Hulk. And basically, this movie is just the Diet Mr. Pibb version of Marvel's Avengers. But the obnoxious thing here is that whenever the movie doesn't know what to do with its Victorian setting, which is a lot of the time, it just turns generically steampunk.
Yes.
Long gone is any of what makes the graphic novel interesting, where Alan Moore is exploring themes of these different time periods, right? Like in the comic, he's blending the formality of the Victorian era with the grit of the modern time, kind of the way that graphic novels were doing in the 1990s.
Yeah. And
I have it back at number 5 because I think you could push back and say maybe it really doesn't qualify as a true period piece, but I'd argue that the period setting and the anachronistic character elements are exactly the point, right?
Yeah, they are.
And also exactly the failing of this mess. So that's good enough for me to put the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen at number 5.
That's an incredible pick, because my number 4, it's the same exact thing. Sherlock Holmes from 2009 and Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, 2011, right?
Yeah.
The same exact thing. Guy Ritchie takes Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's brilliant but refined detective and turns him into a Victorian-era MMA champion. It stars Robert Downey Jr. He's fresh off his Iron Man redemption arc, and he's kind of twitchy, but he's an action hero Holmes. And then Jude Law is his curiously well-dressed and battle-ready Dr. Watson. These films crammed more shirtless fistfights and explosions into foggy London than Jack the Ripper ever dreamed of.
You saw both of them?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I like both of them well enough.
Sure.
You know, because you've got Robert Downey Jr. and that sort of undeniable charm. You've got Ritchie's really kinetic style. But the action and the sense of humor combined with Ritchie's direction and his pacing, it's also rapid fire, both in the dialogue and in terms of the way the cutting of the movie is. You just can't believe that the contemporary actors in it are doing anything other than cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
And an important character in the books is Irene Adler.
Yeah.
She's sort of carried on throughout several different books. She's supposed to be, I guess, in the movie, sort of the Catwoman to Robert Downey Jr.'s Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently even Victorian-era femme fatales weren't safe from Guy Ritchie's lads first approach, right?
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Who's surprised that Guy Ritchie managed to screw up a female character in a movie? My number 4 is a film that's come up on our show before, which is why I opted to leave it a little further back on the list. You mentioned this film in our bottom 5 mustaches list. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know.
I am talking about The Conqueror from 1956.
Oh, Jesus, John Wayne.
Uh-huh.
Oh my
John
God,
Wayne takes us all the way back to the Mongol Empire.
Yeah.
For extremely racist reasons, where he plays Genghis Khan.
We're not my father and Wang Khan blood brothers as you and I. I have a blood claim on him I've never made, even in my early trials.
Because a young Temujin had pride and knew that Wang Khan would not lift a finger save in his own interest.
I go to him now not as a beggar, but as an ally with gifts and grave intelligence.
You did a great job in our Runaway episode explaining how deeply, overwhelmingly wrong-headed this movie is.
Unbelievable.
It's like the filmmakers heard about this time period at a sleepover party and then decided to make a movie about it in their friend's backyard. Only the friend had like an actual shitload of horses and fake swords kicking around in their tool shed, and their Mongolian accents sound exactly like John Wayne. The whole thing is fucked. It's sort of like they just made a Western, but then wallpapered the whole thing in racism just to call it a period piece. It's bonkers. So but for now, it's my number 4 period piece.
Yeah, I ran across that one in my research for period pieces. Immediately remembered that I had chosen it for something. I didn't remember what it was. Thank you for reminding me that it was mustaches. I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was that I had picked it for. It is one of those movies that's so bad it could end up on multiple lists for multiple reasons. Love it for this list. That's a great one. My number 3, fresh off of the Men in Black high, Will Smith and the MIB director, Barry Sonnenfeld, who you know intimately for 9 Lives. Well, they were unstoppable at that point, right? Until they weren't. Enter Wild Wild West, a loose adaptation of the 1960s TV show, The Wild Wild West. Ooh, that mashed together Western tropes. And then in the movie, giant steampunk-looking mechanical spiders and Kevin Kline in drag. It features Kenneth Branagh hamming it up as a Confederate amputee villain named, no kidding, Dr. Arliss Lovelace. Where was Arliss Lovelace on our bottom 5 character names?
That's good, yeah.
Damn, we should have had it. This film tried to sell audiences on the idea that the 1860s America was a futuristic playground of steam-powered nonsense. So we're kind of continuing this trend a little bit of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This flick bombed critically and commercially, and to this day, Will Smith cites turning down The Matrix to star in Wild Wild West as the worst decision of his career. Didn't we have one of our bottom 5s where it was like bottom 5
choices, I think.
Choices. That would have been one of them, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have to tell you something. I don't know if it's a wise decision on my part or not.
Okay.
Somehow, despite my age, I have managed to go through this life without having seen Wild Wild West. I don't know how.
Does it have something to do with giant mechanical spiders?
Maybe it's a spider.
Mike?
Maybe. Could be. Well, my number 3, Jason. George Clooney is a talented guy in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, a little more hit or miss. That has never been more evident than in 2008's Leatherheads.
Ooh.
A film set in the 1920s in the early days of professional football, before it was this massive cultural force that we know it as, and back when they wore leather helmets. The film's directed by Clooney, who co-stars along with Renee Zellweger and John Krasinski, and it wants to immerse us in the American sports world of the 1920s, when college football is just starting to give some daylight to the idea of going pro. It's a screwball comedy that commits the ultimate sin. It's boring and unfunny.
Oh, dear.
It gets all the period piece elements right. The production design, which was done by Jim Bissell, who also did things like E.T., Jumanji, and The Rocketeer, is rich and detailed. The costumes are great, but I may have unlocked here an accidental film jitsu mystery with this one. The costume designer was Louise Frogley, who is very good at her job. Very good. She's been nominated for awards by the Costume Designers Guild multiple times.
Okay.
But check this filmography. Gunpowder Milkshake, Speed 2 Cruise Control, both previous episodes.
Wow.
Also Fair Game, an episode that John and I did on the original run of the show.
Nice.
If you'll forgive the pun, Jay, it turns out we've been pulling at the threads of this woman's career for a long time now. So because they went to such great lengths to capture the time period and then not do a damn thing with it, Leatherheads is my number 3.
It's kind of like your Barry Lyndon in a
little
way.
Bit,
a little bit. They got a lot of it right, but it's kind of a slog.
Yeah.
Well, now we've come to my number 2. And, this one's a pretty obvious one, and I thought it might end up on your list, too. And it's 1941 from Steven Spielberg.
I didn't even think about this.
Here he was. He was close to the height of his powers. Maybe not quite, but Jaws and Close Encounters behind him. Raiders of the Lost Ark just ahead. But he decided, Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors in history, decided to try his hand at something that he's not great at, and that's comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the result was this chaotic, bloated, and painfully unfunny World War II farce that spent $35 million in 1977, 78 money, recreating the post-Pearl Harbor panic in Los Angeles. And it being a comedy, you would think that they would have remembered to add actual jokes. But instead, they just got a whole bunch of really impressive actors like John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, I know, Mike, Ned Beatty, even Christopher Lee is in this movie.
Yeah, right.
Right? It's a case study in excess. Sprawling set pieces, endless screaming, and a complete lack of comedic timing. Spielberg himself had later admitted, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know it was out of control until I was in the editing room. So there you go.
Oh. Isn't Toshiro Mifune in 1941?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild.
From the director of Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The most explosive comedy spectacular ever filmed.
What the hell do you people think you're doing?
Dan Aykroyd, Ned Beatty, John Belushi, Lorraine Garrett, Murray Hamilton, Christopher Lee, Tim Matheson, Toshiro Mifune, Warren Oates, Robert Stack, Treat Williams.
I can assure you, there will be no bombs dropped here.
I find it a fascinating movie. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you've got Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale writing it. So you've got the guys from like Back to the Future writing this thing. It just, for some reason, it really didn't work. And I think, who I blame is that the story is by John Milius.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Because that gang, right? That gang in like the 70s that all hung out together. You got Lucas, Milius, you had Coppola, De Palma was on the fringe of it, Spielberg.
Milius is who the Coen brothers based Walter Sobchak on.
100%. I mean, that's him.
Yeah. Walter Sobchak wrote 1941. I love this. My number 2 could very easily have been my number 1, but it is not, for the simple reason that I've only seen about 15 minutes of the movie, which I realize seems like bullshit, but I think you'll be both understanding and forgiving when I tell you that my number 2 pick is Ginger Dead Man 3 Saturday Night Cleaver. Right. In this installment, our old pal, the Ginger Dead Man, travels through time to a 1970s roller disco beauty pageant, which in and of itself sounds like its own fresh hell. And now we have a 1970s living Cookie Man murder spree. The Ginger Dead Man is honestly, he's just become a free space on these bottom 5s. We might have to get around to doing a full review of one of these movies one of these days because it just keeps coming up. But I checked myself out of Saturday Night Cleaver at the Ginger Dead Man visits a glory hole scene. That was enough for me. Right. So did I watch the entire film? No. Is it a 1970s schlock fest? It sure is. Am I sorry I didn't watch the whole thing? Not even a little bit, because I saw enough to know it's a bottom 5 period piece. It's on my list as number 2 on a technicality.
That whole Ginger Dead Man series was kicked off by he who we cannot talk about on the show.
Right.
So I'm just going to say, like,
yeah,
look in our Hall of Lame and you'll figure it out. But
that's right.
That's interesting. But this one was directed by a guy named William Butler,
right,
who has made such wonderful films as Baby Oopsie 2, Murder Dolls, and Bunker of Blood Chapter 2, Deadly Dolls, Deepest Cuts. This guy definitely seems to be following in the footsteps of a mentor that we cannot talk about.
Yeah, he sure managed to pick up the gingerbread torch and run with it, didn't he?
The ginger dead torch.
The ginger dead torch, yeah, for sure.
Interestingly, I cut out of my number one as well.
Okay.
I think I made it about a half hour into Darren Aronofsky's Noah.
You know what? I've had this as a potential episode for a long time.
Yes.
I don't know that I was ever going to pull the trigger on it, but good Lord.
You've got the mind behind Requiem for a Dream and Black Swan, and he decided that his next tortured protagonist would be Noah. But instead of like quiet introspection or gritty realism, he delivered a film that's so wildly off the rails that it makes the Sci-Fi Channel originals look restrained.
Yep.
Storm is coming.
What about our wives? Where are they?
Not hear what I just said?
When are they coming?
There will be no wives.
What? What? No. You said that the Creator would give us what we need.
Help your brother.
Listen, you can't do this. You can't. How am I supposed to be a man?
I said help your brother.
You want me to stay a child?
No! I'm asking you to be a man.
Russell Crowe does far more in this movie than it deserves, but at a certain point, he just largely ends up glowering through the apocalypse, tormented by environmental guilt and murderous visions, while rock monsters called Watchers stomp around like rejected Lord of the Rings concepts. Anthony Hopkins shows up. He spends most of his screen time talking about berries. I don't know.
I don't know why either.
Ray Winstone appears as the least convincing ancient warlord perhaps ever captured on film. It's all laughably over earnest, so goofily, idiotically serious that it's a stunning miscalculation narratively, dramatically, and even visually. It's a goddamn mess. And Paramount was so worried about the film's confusing tone and the theological controversy that it produced that they tested multiple cuts before Aronofsky insisted his version remain. The result? A movie that managed to alienate both religious audiences and art house cinephiles. It made money. It made money. It was pretty successful. It's his most successful movie, which is crazy because it's by far his worst movie.
That's crazy to me.
I'm actually down with what I saw of the film in terms of what it had to say. I got a little giddy about the kind of anti-right Christian themes that Aronofsky laced into the film.
Sure.
They kind of decried their blatant hypocrisy when it comes to cherry-picking biblical law. Kind of loved it, you know? Those Old Testament verses that they ignore, you know, that had to do with like certain like killing of animals or wearing certain things, etc. That kind of stuff. I don't know. I'll say this. Noah is awash in many things, but more than anything, it's a flood of half-assed ideas and insanely pretentious drama. My number one, Aronofsky's Noah.
And we all know how it ends.
Yeah.
There's never any unicorns at the end. Sometimes a good place to start for my bottom 5 list is, did Film Jitsu ever do this movie as a full review? And in the case of my number 1, it turns out that we did.
Oh, cool.
In the original run of the show, John reviewed my number 1 selection. Another great place to start a bottom 5 list is with the question, did Roland Emmerich ever make a movie about this? The answer to that question is also yes. He directed the movie that John reviewed. So Film Jitsu did once give a full review to the 2008 Roland Emmerich historical clusterfuck, 10,000 BC.
Yeah, oof.
I cannot even begin. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time.
I know, we really don't.
For me to tell you all the different ways in which this thing went historically wonky. It's like Roland Emmerich had a personal vendetta against time and logic and decided to take it out on this movie. It's set in the Ice Age, but we also have woolly mammoths building the Egyptian pyramids at the same time. There are saber-toothed tigers and there are cave dudes riding on horseback. I spotted a map of fucking the lost city of Atlantis in this thing.
That's great.
It's unbelievable. The stuff that made it in there accidentally is funny enough. The stuff that is a part of the movie and they just didn't give a shit.
That's great.
Not only does it not know what time period it's in, it doesn't know what time period other things are in. It doesn't know what time periods we know about. It doesn't know what time periods to include. It's just like Leroy Jenkins all over the screen.
That's exactly the way Sucker Punch is from Zack Snyder.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense from any standpoint where things happen. They're so incongruous as far as time goes. You've got things that are way into the future, things that are in the past, things that are steampunk. They're all over the map. And it's like, when did this movie take place? Because it's all like in a dream world.
Right.
Like, how did this woman manage to imagine any of this? How could it possibly have been? And it sounds like Emmerich did that.
Maybe like when he had sexy Ice Age guys riding around on horses and then like blink and you miss it and the Egyptian pyramids are going up. A millennia happened in between those two things. And for this guy, it was just like his long weekend. I was like, wait a second.
What do we expect from the guy that brought us Moonfall?
Exactly.
Mike, it's that time in the show where we play a game called Dueling Double Bill, where you and I build the best possible double features that we can construct when we are given to randomly generated movie titles. We tweaked things a little bit so that we have a movie that's somewhat thematically related to what we're talking about. So we're going to go ahead. It's Dueling Double Bill time. We're going to pop up and find out our first film title. And here goes. Wow. As far as like Y2k goes, this couldn't possibly have been a better choice. Think Pierce Brosnan and Jeff Fahey. Yeah, baby. The Lawnmower Man from 1992. It's 90s. It's machinery killing people. I love it. This is so good. Basically Flowers for Argonon, but with computer murder. And that's gonna pair up nicely with something. Unfortunately, I think I already know what mine is. And I'm sad about it. All right. Here comes the second one. Holy crap. Went the period piece this time. And immediately I have the song from this film in my head. Reproduction.
Oh, yeah.
Grease 2.
Okay. Grease 2.
Oh my God. My ex-wife, Justin's mom, Sherry, shout out. She loved Adrian Zemed so much in this movie. Adrian Zemed, also of Bachelor Party fame. Oh my God. It's just too much funny coming out of Grease 2. So The Lawnmower Man from 1992 and then 10 years earlier, Grease 2.
Unbelievable the way my brain works some days, Jason. Because I instantaneously knew what my pairing for Lawnmower Man was going to be.
Oh, yeah?
Instantaneously, I had it. I'm ready to give it to you. What I did not know, I swear to God, what I did not know, is that this film was director Brent Leonard's follow-up to Lawnmower Man, which is 1995's Virtuosity.
Virtuosity. I thought of the same thing. I didn't go with it. Yep. I had two options. I'm not going to go with Virtuosity now.
I went with Virtuosity here because Virtuosity, much like Lawnmower Man, is mid-90s techno nonsense with a cast that is like way better than the script deserves.
Unbelievable. Was it like Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe or something?
Denzel Washington.
And Noah himself.
That's right. Yeah. We have Macbeth and Noah in a movie here. Yeah. So what I didn't know instantaneously was that Virtuosity was the follow-up to Lawnmower Man by the same director. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I'm going with it. I'm going to go
That's incredible. It's like a Brett Leonard double feature.
Yep.
Virtuosity and Lawnmower Man. The director himself, we could get him to come out
for a Q&A
and talk about it. Holy
I'm
Christ,
calling this like
one.
my USA up all night, like my Friday night.
Yeah, man.
Midnight movie schlock
100%.
fest. That's what that is.
Yeah, that is great stuff. I also thought of Virtuosity first and foremost right off the bat, not knowing that it was the same director. Had I known, I probably would have went for it. And here's why. I'm going to quickly jump to my double bill for Grease 2.
Okay.
And then I'll talk about my Lawnmower Man one. My Grease 2 one, I immediately thought of the director of Grease 2.
Okay.
And it actually isn't who I thought it was. As it turns out, he directed Grease. So his name is Randall Kleiser. He is also the director of what I want to partner with Grease 2, because I find that they're similar enough in tone that I could see them working well together, even if it isn't a director double feature that I had so much hoped it was going to be, right? Grease 2, by the way, is directed by Patricia Birch. Grease is directed by Randall Kleiser. Randall Kleiser directed my pick for the Dueling Double Bill, which is Big Top Pee-wee.
So this is more like a 6 Degrees of Randall Kleiser situation. Okay, I like that.
Yes, exactly, right? You know, I just find that this sort of cheesy sequel that's goofy and funny, light. I really hoped I could do a Brett Leonard myself there for a moment, but I had to double check, and I was like, no, wait, oh, crap. Patricia Birch. So
one of the ways that I think about these double bills is I envision the marquee.
The marquee.
In lights. And I just love rolling up to the Coolidge Corner Theater, and in lights on the big marquee is the 6 Degrees of Randall Kleiser marathon.
Grease 2 and Big Top Pee-wee.
Just a whole bunch of people on the sidewalk being like, what the fuck was it? Just like Googling Randall Kleiser.
Hey, you know what? He directed Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's had some good films. I mean, he did White Fang.
Okay. I mean, I didn't say I wasn't going to go. I like it. In fact, I like that pairing better than my own.
So what is your Grease 2 pairing?
I had similar logic to yours. I went with more of a cult movie night sort of thing.
Sure.
Grease 2, a cult movie for being a notoriously far-flung and bad sequel. So I went in that same vein, also a musical from a beloved original. I went with Shock Treatment, the much maligned cult classic sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought that was exactly the kind of thing that you could get people out with. But I like yours better because I think that tonally Big Top Pee-wee pairs better with Grease as both being a little light and funny. Shock Treatment's a tough watch. We actually did Shock Treatment on the original run of the show.
Sure.
It's not a lot of fun. It fits for me thematically. I could see a certain
bad
kind
sequels.
Of people coming out for that double bill, but I think I like Big Top Pee-wee as maybe a more fun night.
Both of the movies, both Grease 2 and Big Top Pee-wee, have their fans.
Yep.
So there are people who like both of those.
The cosplay is definitely better for Grease 2 and Big Top Pee-wee.
Well, that leaves us with my choice to go along with the Lawnmower Man.
Mm-hmm.
And what I decided was Lawnmower Man, when I think of lawnmowers, I think of Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
Okay. All right.
And that just, you never really get what the Lawnmower Man promises because you think you're going to get murder from a lawnmower and you never really get what you're really looking for there, but you sure as hell get it in Dead Alive from the esteemed director of Lord of the Rings to boot. So it's that early work from him. It's incredibly gory. It might be too much partnered with this techno thriller, but I chose it over Virtuosity, funny enough. Before you even went with it, I was like, nah, I'm going to go with this because this is what people are going to want after they get out of Lawnmower Man. We're not going to do the director's cut, by the way, of Lawnmower Man.
Oh, okay.
Because that shit is unnecessarily long.
I like how literal you get with these sometimes. You're like,
I
okay,
get very
there was a
literal.
Lawnmower Man in the first one. So what's another movie where there's a lawnmower? It's going to be, that's the other one. It's the lawnmower. Come on out for a lawnmower night at the movies. I like it. I do think I prefer Virtuosity with Lawnmower Man.
The Brett Leonard double
feature.
feature.
A little bit of like a tighter connection, but I definitely
sure.
give it to you for Grease too. So I would say this one's a split for me.
It's a split. Whew, man, I don't know how many more of these we have to
Do
play
you agree?
before one of us gets assigned. Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree. I think that I love the fact that both of us had a double feature by a director. I mean, that is the kind of kismet
right
you only get with Dueling Double Bill.
Jason, I now get to reveal what you're going to be watching for our upcoming episode. But it's a little different than usual because I didn't just pluck this out of the ether like we usually do. We have some results of the poll that we've been running on the website for a little while. Our Sophie's Choice poll, where we take a look back at some of the episodes that we did on the original run of the show and put them up for reconsideration so that you get a chance to watch one of kind of the canon of bad films. And the choices that we had this time around for our listeners to choose from were Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme or The Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh God, it sucks to be the new guy.
It
Jesus.
sucks to
Man.
be the new guy.
Wow.
And you know what? I can always count on the listeners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am thrilled to announce you're going to be watching The Garbage Pail Kids, the movie.
First the thumbs, now the fucking Garbage Pail Kids.
I don't know that you can really understand exactly what it is you're in for. I think you know, you don't know. You don't know. This
you would
is
think I would
a
know
wild
because
ride.
I collected so many of those cards, both when I was a child and with my oldest son, Justin.
Love them.
Whatever I found interesting or humorous about the cards will be completely absent from this.
Oh, boy. Well, what we need is a bottom five. We're actually going to stick with the plot because a lot of what this plot has to do with are the bullies. And so for our bottom five, we are going to do our bottom five bullies.
Okay,
Now,
cool.
I would like to just jump the gun here and call this the Biff Tannen tribute list. I think we can all agree Biff's a bad guy. High five for Biff, moving right along.
Yeah, for sure.
Bottom five bullies to pair with your sitting down and watching The Garbage Pail Kids. I honestly wonder how many of our listeners might also suffer this. I dare you out there in Film Jitsu land. Watch this movie and then come back for our next episode where Jay's going to give it the full review and we're going to do our bottom five bullies. But until then, we have been your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am Y2J.
And we'll see you next time.
karate, stalno mislim na te, hoću znat sve kate, vježbat ću sate i sate, karate, vježbat ću dok zadnji mi kjaj, zastane izađe.
We are your hosts. I am Y2J.
And I am the Mike Arena. Yep, that's right.
Oh, that'll dreadful. That'll be the earliest outtake we've ever had.